It's all fun and games until the Beetrooper duelist locks down a top 4 out of the YCS. Make sure you smash the crap out of that subscribe button so you guys don't miss out more awesome content. We'll be looking at a couple of deck lists here out of the Latin America YCS, the NA YCS, and a couple of interesting little side decks for you guys here as well. The first one you can see on your screen here is actually the fabled Beetrooper list, actually that kind of tore through the NA metagame. Now remember, there were 2 Beetroopers in the top cut of the last event, which kind of is interesting, actually. Actually kind of happy to see that this deck is functioning well, but the entire Beetrooper community is still kind of ringing at the fact that this deck is just Fusion Destiny Turbo, and I don't want to take anything away from this deck and be like, I mean, DP is the core centralized part of this strategy 95% of the time. But at the end of the day, how real strong is it? Well, it gets things done. I also see down here that we're siding one of our normal monsters so that you can kind of do the more advanced interaction plays with this deck, which is actually kind of hilarious. I mean, you can kind of pick whichever one you really need to see to fit into the strategy, because, I mean, you got plenty of vanilla normal monsters out there, but it seems that we chose one of the old classics out here. Outside of that, I see that we have the token collectors built in for the Sword Soul matchup. Of course, the absolute hate for the format as well in the form of Dimensional Barrier. And of course, we have the going second breakers of evenly matched. Outside of this, the only other list that I saw, I believe it was Herman, right, that was next to Andrew here in terms of bug supremacy. And, you know, we haven't seen this deck functionally doing well at a regional level, but it's just kind of funny to see that this deck went above and beyond for this particular event, locking down a top 4 finish of all things. So let's give it up for Insects, still beating alive out here. And we'll probably see this deck go back into hibernating until, you know, a shift in the format here. But for now, this is what you're definitely seeing for at least a decent strategy, in my opinion. Next up here is Sky Striker. Now, Striker went all the way to 2nd place in Latin America here, which, once again, you have another Destroy Phoenix Enforcer deck. The cool thing about this one is we have shared rides built into the main deck. The last time I saw shared ride, I think it was pretty much dominant in the side deck for this particular deck. You basically would focus on generating advantage as your opponent plays the game, and I mean, it's essentially Max C for this deck. 3 people are going to comment down below and be like, no, it's not. Max C is just better. Maxi doesn't exist here in the TCG, but when you have a card that, or actually in a format where your opponent interacts with their deck as much as we do here, a free spell card to get you into those Nibiru's, those Effect Veilers, those, you know, shared ride, or those Ash Blossoms, those hand traps, you can play the game and stop your opponent at those crucial times as they're taking the shared ride challenge, as we'll say out here. That's particularly not a bad thing. Also, I mean, let's be honest here, TC Boo is one of the best damn cards that this deck still has solidly going for it, alright? Even though the metagame has pretty much proven that between the big 2, Striker's kind of running around in the lower tier 1 category, but I don't necessarily think that that's a bad thing. So, kudos to seeing that Striker can lock down a particular finish here. I'm actually kind of happy to see that this deck went as far as it did. Hopefully in the future we'll see some more, I would say, strong backing from this deck. Next up here, my favorite, Tri DP. Anybody else notice that the trend between these 3 deck lists so far? Well, there's 3 Fusion Destinies in this mofo. Alright, so we're focusing on using everybody's favorite Fusion Destiny to disrupt the opponent's strategy. Oh, that's a key story to the format. All right, no surprise there. What I find very interesting here is the fact that we've chosen to play the 2 copies of the Crossout Designator here. We're already at 43 cards. I also see that we're focusing a lot on 2-ofs here, because we have 2 talents, 2 chalices, 2 droplets, and the 2, even 2 imperm double revolt. Okay, well, I mean, Triple Revolt's kind of taking a step back this format. I'm not really surprised all about that. Even like in the side deck, you'll see the reflective choices of the 2-ofs between the Lightning Vortexes, the Dark Rulers, the Evenlies, the D-Barriers, and the Lightning, or the Anti-Spell Fragrances. Huh. And then, yeah, we board in the 3rd Nibiru, effectively. Man, this duelist really found a lot of success out here with those 2-ofs. Also, 3 Shirog. I think a lot of people are trying to push away from 3 Shirog as of late, but understandable. Outside of that, I don't see anything too crazy left field about this, other than those 2 of ratios that, hey man, if they end up working, it ends up working out. We even got 2 Veiler, 2 Ash in here. Wow. Next up here, we have Invoked Eldritch. Now, the cool thing about playing this deck is Eldritch effectively acts as a free discard outlet for you to punish something, right? But what I find most interesting is we're on triple Scarlet, triple Conch. If anything happens to our 1 of Golden Lord, we're just in a really bad position. And I don't really think that that was much of a thought in terms of building with this, because you're already on 43 cards, and you've already got to ask yourself at that point, is 43 pushing it with an Alistair deck? And I don't really know. If you want me to be honest with you, I find this just kind of be interesting. To be fair, I don't really think there's a lot of people, besides like the Lyricalist players are out here that are playing DD Crow to search off the Recital Starlings. But if that's the case, then this deck's got 6-7 dead cards in it, because we're only playing the 1 of Golden Lord. But I guess the logic with this is you want to turbo up, set up, do your thing, and, you know, get the game through 1 turn. All right, if you need to see the 2nd Golden Lord, I guess the logic might be present here that you might be dead by the time that that comes up. And if that's the case, I understand. There's not really much of a point to push for the additional, but that is just so dang weird to me. I also see down here we have the Trap Tricks and the Sanctums. We are going full steam ahead for anti-meta hate for this particular build. Outside of that, this is kind of an interesting little choice of mashup here for the format. Not too bad. I still question mark that 1 Eldritch though. Next up, we have Fluondres here. Now remember, this deck is going to be going through an entire evolution here in the next couple weeks. Once Battle of Chaos ends up touching down into the TCG, you're going to get the chance to see what this deck can actually do once we get the next crazy headliners into this format, which will be Journey. All right, and having a spell card literally just lets you dodge effective hand traps so that you can play the game. That's fine. The current problem with this deck in its current iteration is you kind of struggle bus against, yes, ladies and gentlemen, you guessed it, Imperm. Any sort of hand trap that can punish this deck right now is kind of big, powerful. I also see down here that we chose to side the Nadir package so we could actually have access to our Ecclesia and Punishment in here post later game. What's interesting about this list, though, is I see that we chose the approach here of effectively going second. We have those evenly matches built into this bad boy, so you can kind of punish the opponent, rip apart their fields, and I mean, who really expects Fluondres to go second, all right? Besides D-Shifters, Ash Blossoms, Imperms, and, you know, Evenlies. Man, what's your opponent going to do? Scoop up their cards and then cry in the corner somewhere else. But, yeah, going second Fluondres list is not something that's really been explored heavily by the player base. That's not necessarily a bad thing to really say, but this does open up doors for future creativity, I would think. Especially when Journey becomes legal. Maybe we're onto something here, ladies and gentlemen. I like little saucy things like this. And the last list we have for you guys here is a first place tournament out of a locals here with Speedroids. Now, I also know that one of the giant card winners out of the past weekend was also a Speedroid list, and we will cover that at a little bit later of a date here. But seeing that Speedroids are running around in the tier 2 category out here and tearing up players, people really don't see this deck coming. All right, and I think that's one of the coolest things that this deck has going for it is the element of surprise. I mean, ask your friends out here, unless they're a dedicated Speedroid player, but 95% of the time you're going to ask yourself, what the heck do Speedroids do? This deck very much has that old reminiscent Ritual Beast feel to it, where a lot of players don't read the cards and understand the generalized interactions that go on with this. And that's why a deck like this can find success in the metagame here, because those underlying tones of uneducated players end up playing against us, they just get destroyed by it, all right? And I mean, you don't really see a lot of lava golems and things inside decks right now to kind of punish these bigger boards per se. So that's definitely something out here that just the element of surprise really can catch players off guard with this. Outside of that, big Crystal Wing, big Baron, go Burr. Literally the strategies. Guys, what do you think about these decks? Please, if you comment down below what you guys think, make sure you guys smash the living crap out of that subscribe button so you guys don't miss out on more awesome content. And I'll see your beautiful faces back here later on the day with some more cool, awesome content. You guys stay safe out there, all right? Peace out, guys. Patrons, thank you. Beetrooper!
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.